Well, welcome to another episode of Talking Greenwood with Mayor B. I have some guests here today. We have the star of Chiefs Corner over here, Chief Shadowan, and we also have my dad, DeWitt Smith, over here. And thought we would make a video for the very niche market we have here in Greenwood of Arkansas Razorback fans. Just thought we'd catch up on the state of Razorback athletics. As y'all may know, I'm a big Razorback fan. My dad played football for the Razorbacks in the late 60s when offensive linemen were, they were huge if they were 220.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was all white, of course,
Yeah.
you know. And Chief, you grew up as a Razorback fan in Arkansas. Is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Born and raised there, so it's a great state. All my family, I'm the only actually one that's still here. All the rest of my family is actually still in Arkansas. So, but man, it's an honor to be here with a real football player, not just a couple autographs, but we got the real deal here today.
Well, we want to make sure that the viewers knew that Chief Stowen is not just he doesn't just say he's a Razorback fan. This should prove it. He's got the old hog hat. That shows you're an old school fan. So, over here, of course, I went to Furman, grew up as a Clemson fan. Also, I kind of lived vicariously through the Tigers during the dark ages of Razorback football, which we've hopefully are cresting and we're getting over that. But I'll start. What do you think about Sam Pittman?
I think that he's such a good leader that I think that's the big thing, and young men want to follow him, and I think that's a big thing we were missing before is our young people wanting to follow their leader, and I think he's going to come in and do a good job.
Yeah.
I don't know, if we're going to do West Coast offense or if we're going to run the ball, or I'm still a little, worrying about which way he's going to go with that.
Right.
Hopefully it's somewhere around 50-50, but Arkansas, we've always been a humongous running team. So
But the big boys on the line.
Big boys on the line.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do y'all hear? Only good things about Pittman?
Yeah. I think the thing that stands out more than anything is he's genuine. He just comes off that way, and it's real. And that I know that have interacted with him more than I indicate that what you see is what you get. He wanted the job. This is his ultimate job.
Yeah.
And he wanted it, and he's reinvigorated the spirit there. We had you could see in the last couple of years where we were playing, and at the end of the game when nobody cared. Well,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
at the end of the game now we may be behind, but we're still plugging.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will be the first to admit when he was hired, it was underwhelming from a name recognition standpoint. But you hear all the players to a man say, "This is the guy." Now, that's not always. If we listen only to the players, I think Houston Nutt would still be our coach, which I love, Coach Nutt. But what I think we can all agree on is that Brett Bielema and Chad Morris were not the answers.
They were not the answer.
And Bielema, my goodness, he at least put some effort into it. I'll look right in the camera if Chad Morris is watching this. You need to return your checks. I don't know what you were doing. But
definitely a dark time right there.
And then you throw John L. Smith in there too, and that was that was
desperation.
That was. But we had it. I think next season we won't even realize how lucky we are to have had Felipe Franks.
Absolutely.
Who probably didn't get the credit it was due. I mean, the guy's going to get drafted.
Yes.
But I like KJ Jefferson. I think if he can stay in shape and work on some things, he could be legendary.
Absolutely. And I think, Felipe Franks, I think the best thing that ever happened in his career was coming to Arkansas, because if you look at when he was at Florida, man, he's a different kid at the University of Arkansas than he was at Florida.
He stepped right in as a leader, captain, and so I think yeah, you're going to recognize how much we miss him next year. But I tell you what, with what Pittman's done to recruit with I mean, if I was a kid coming out of high school, there wasn't much reason to want to go play for the Razorbacks, but what he's been able to do has been quite astounding.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's always, your dad can tell you more about it than me because he's been there at that Colgate level, but it's always great to either work or play sports for someone that you have that respect for, that you want to be with, that you want to do good for. It just makes such a big difference.
Yeah, it does. And in addition to that, it looks like there's coaches that want to coach under him too. I mean, Barry Odom could have gone to Texas and been their defensive coordinator. I mean, it's a former head coach in the SEC and stuck around. I think that's huge. Even though the defense did fall off at the end of last season, I don't know if anybody could have done a better job than Barry Odom did with what he was working with.
Would be helpful if we got some good recruits.
Yeah. And I saw the other day we signed somebody, so now we're top 20 in this class, this coming class. So, I think the metrics will show that you're not in the hunt for a national championship unless you're consistently in the top 10 or whatever. So, I'm under no pretense that we're going to go out there and win national championship anytime soon, but at least have something to be excited about,
It's nice to watch a game and not know who's going to win.
That's right. That's exactly right. Putting aside that last game against Alabama, the last season, all right, that's like playing the '85 Bears.
Yeah, you can't count that.
Yeah,
so.
but that's exciting. And hey, basketball, we just cracked the top 25. I'm all on board the Must Bus.
Yes.
I love Mike Anderson too. Mike was former coach, was assistant on the of course the national championship team. Love him, and I think he's doing a great job at St. John's now. But Muss is the real deal, I think.
Yes, and you can tell just by watching him on the sidelines when he's coaching during a game how much it means to him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not just. I mean, he is in whether they're down or whether they're up. It makes no. He's coaching the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's just awesome to see.
He is, and he makes it a family affair. He's got his sons on the staff. His wife and daughters are always present. We went to a football game, of course not last year, the year before. We sat next to his ex-wife.
Wow.
And so he's just one of these guys that, it's a big family. And so she still is there,
Wow.
with the new wife and everything. So it was, not new anymore, but just cracked the top 25 and streaky team, I think. Muss was big on, he can recruit well, but he also is big on grad transfers.
Yeah, he likes the transfers.
That kid, Justin, I was just telling him before you came back in, Justin Smith that transferred from Indiana has made a huge difference. I just saw our record games versus when he plays and when he doesn't, and he's a difference maker. We got a guy 7'3" shooting 3-pointers out there.
Yeah,
I might weigh more than him than Connor Vanover also at 5'8", but he's 7'3", and he's light. Those are the ones you gotta guard all over the court.
Yeah, he's everywhere, and he looks so awkward when
He
he's running up
does.
and down
Bless
the
his
court.
heart.
He just looks awkward.
Bless his heart, and I remember we had Dan Skipper on the offensive line a few years ago, 6'10" or 6'11", and they showed what he had to eat just to stay at his current weight per day. And poor Connor Vanover, once he gets, but I'll tell you I've been impressed with him. He signed with Memphis, but then ended up going to Cal. Played at Cal as a true freshman. The evil NCAA made him sit out last year, but might have been a good thing. Let him develop. But even as skinny as he is, he's blocking shots all over the place
Absolutely.
and getting rebounds. So it's exciting. And then, of course, we got baseball. And full disclosure, what was that? Summer 2018, I was in Omaha when the Hogs were one strike away from winning the College World Series. And they lost that game. I had a flight, had to come back. But said, oh, Brian Benson and I went out there, and he was kind enough to. No, he wasn't even an Arkansas fan. He said, "You want to go to Omaha? You really want to go?" I said, "Yeah." So he went with me, but we came back and said, "Well, all right, we can't stay for the final deciding game, but I'm sure we got it in the bag." And of course, we did not have it in the bag, but I'd love to see those guys take another.
Absolutely, and I think we'll be better this year than, I think he kind of went through a rebuilding year too, but man, he gets some good athletes going through there.
And that's one of the best venues in the country to watch college baseball. Way better than LSU. I mean, LSU doesn't compare. And if you can sense how I'm talking directly to LSU fans, I am. But yeah, those are. Now I remember you were invited to go play baseball. Thought about it at Arkansas, but did not.
Back in the day, I started to go out after my eligibility was over, and then didn't do it. But that's how. And I wasn't a great baseball player. I mean, I played through Legion ball and all that, but I could have gone out and been on the team.
Yeah.
That's how weak we were.
Well, yeah, that's another great pipeline of a lot of major leaguers. I saw Andrew Benintendi and just got traded the other day. Where did he got traded to? Who did y'all see?
I seen the article and I just wrote right.
I can't remember it either, but he won the college version of the Heisman Trophy, and so they're an exciting team to watch. You never know if the Gamecocks can put together back-to-back runs. That's probably the hardest thing in the world to do, is do back-to-back baseball championships, and you never know what could happen. But I look forward to a year back with some normalcy with these sports and get crowds actually helping influence the outcomes of the game. Baseball, basketball, football, whatever.
There's no better feeling than being at Razorback Stadium and calling the Hogs. That's just one of the best feelings in the world. So it's like a whole different venue. I've been to games all over the place. I've been to Clemson, of course, in Carolina and Alabama and Tennessee, and they're just. I mean, I don't know. It's a different feeling. Even my wife said it's just a different feeling.
It is a great. I want to tell one other story about my dad, and then I think you gave me a good idea. We can end this with a kind of an abbreviated big sewer, very big sewer. But so my dad, he played in the late '60s. So you were a freshman the year after they won the national championship in '64,
Right.
And he does not recall this, but it was probably 10 years or so ago. We went to they opened up this new parking tailgate area, and it was the Jerry Jones, Jim Lindsay tailgate area. I don't know. So Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, his roommate throughout college was Jim Lindsay, who's from Forest City, from my little small town in East Arkansas where my dad was from. They had actually a pipeline of great players from Forest City. His brother B didn't end up playing there, but Jimmy Finch and a lot of other players came from Forest City. But anyway, we went to this, and it was a decent little crowd out there. And after they did the dedication for this new parking ceremony, there's a bunch of old players standing around talking. And Jerry Jones walks up to my dad and says, "DeWitt, y'all want to go grab some breakfast with us?" And my dad said, "Well, we got to go back to the farm and got some things to do." And I didn't say anything. We got in the car. I said, "Dad, what do we have to do that is more important than that?" He said, "I got to cut some branches down. I got to clean up some stuff around the pond." I never said anything, but that is the kind of guy my dad is. He's not all about.
That's awesome.
But it would have been a great story. But
That is awesome.
but anyway, that was you got some successful people, at least in like Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer, and your old coach Frank Broyles, who passed away a couple years ago
Yeah,
now.
that was probably one of the most genuine people. I don't know if you could be a bigger Arkansas person than what he was
Yeah.
for the University of Arkansas. Frank was, he's just a different person.
Do you want to give us any good coach? Because Coach Broyles was from Atlanta. He was tried and true Georgia Tech, and so he wasn't from
Yep, that's
Arkansas. But you were exactly right. Considering someone who came there in their early 30s,
Yeah.
became the face of you. You got a good Coach Broyles stories to end us with?
Well, I've got plenty of them, but, you know, Coach Broyles was, he was a great football mind, and what he did was assemble the best coaches, and look at all the coaches that went on to be.
Yeah, that's why they call it the
Coach.
Frank Broyles Award, right?
Yeah. And he assembled the best coaches, but he was also he was the best salesman. I mean, he could recruit like crazy. He was the best salesman.
He was kind of like the first CEO of a college football team.
He was CEO. I was going to say that's a good example because he delegated exceptionally well, and his personality was such that he got all worked up on game day that he had to delegate because he would get rattled. He'd get rattled on game day, and so it had to be delegated out, the decisions. He was great in the strategic planning, but got a little rattled on the game day.
You know, and I had met Coach Broyles a number of times before. I'll tell you a funny story. We were walking into the SEC championship game the last time we were there, which feels like a generation ago.
Yes.
But he happened to be right next to us walking in, and you know, crowds everywhere. And I said, Coach Broyles, hey, Brandon Smith, I'm DeWitt Smith's son. He said, yes, you are. And just kept on walking. But he was an interesting guy, a member of Augusta National. Got you on to play there
He did
one
get
or
an
two
opportunity,
times with him,
yeah.
right?
Well, he did get an opportunity.
That's a perk
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah.
well, we can get into our women's team. Women's basketball team beat UConn.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
That doesn't happen much. Any other sports we're missing?
Well, you got to at least acknowledge that we do have a track team.
Track team.
Yeah,
Look,
I only consider them one of the best.
Gamecock fans, our track team is like your version of the equestrian dominance you had in the early 2000s, but like on a whole nother scale. So,
Yes.
yeah. But well, y'all want to end with just an abbreviated Pig Suey?
Yeah, man.
Let's do. We don't have to do all
I
three.
will
of them.
say this, man, it is such an honor to meet you.
You're
Thank
kind.
you for everything that you've done for the University of Arkansas, but also you do for now here in South Carolina for us. You know, it's important that we have, you know, people like you that's able to tell stories about the good old days and, you know, and keep those memories alive. Because, man, I could sit here for like 12 hours and just ask questions. It's like I'm like a kid in a candy store. I just like want to ask, you know, all the questions about, man, when you come out of the tunnel, what was it like? All that good stuff.
Well, you know, we're glad to have it. It took, I think, my folks just moved back to town about 4 months ago, and I think it took me winning the mayor's race to realize that this is where we're going to be. So I'm glad to have them back in Greenwood. Of course, they moved over here when I was a kid. My dad worked at Savannah Lakes Village in McCormick from its inception in the mid '80s, and so I always love South Carolina, but always remained a Razorback fan, and my boys are too, and we get a kick out of watching sports. So anyway, let's end it with a.
All right.
All right, we'll just do one here. Whoa.